I grew up very much like, everything needs to be perfect. Failure's not an option. Like, you need to go to Ivy League. Spoiler, I didn't, right? Like, you gotta do all the things, and you gotta do it right. There's only kind of one way to do something. And then realizing that rarely ends up that way, especially as a founder, especially in the early days, and really just having that be the foundation of it all. And of course, from our end, what's important for us is that we also get it right. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we do have to get it right given the stakes involved. So I do want to mention that. Do all of that right. And maybe an addendum to that is that there are moments where you do have to be perfect, and you identify those and you be relentless about what those things are. A lot of the things you can just let go. And that is also a hard lesson to learn. So no better time to learn than doing it in real time. Because if you never start, it's always going to be perfect because it always lives in your head, and you're going to be disappointed anyway. So you might as well just try first.
Welcome to the Inside the Round podcast, where you get to learn about capital raising from founders who have just done it. I'm Helena Fogarty. I'm a fundraising expert who helps startups raise their seed and Series A rounds. And today I'm speaking with Jacyln Siu of Starcycle, a company that helps founders shut down their companies with dignity and efficiency. Starcycle makes the difficult parts easier. While the startup ecosystem celebrates high valuations, unicorns, and IPOs, the reality is that many startups don't make it. And founders are often left alone to navigate the complex, emotionally draining process of winding down. I've done this. It's not easy emotionally, financially, and often not clear to how to do it. We talk a lot about how founders get started and how to scale, but tend to ignore this part of a company's life cycle. Starcycle transforms this experience by providing founders with the tools, guidance, and support needed to close their companies professionally and efficiently, preserving relationships and reputations while minimizing the personal toll. By helping founders through one of entrepreneurship's most challenging moments, Starcycle enables them to move forward with confidence and get back to building their next venture faster. In this episode, we're diving deep into how Jaclyn approached raising a small but highly intentional strategic angel round. We'll explore her thoughtful process of selecting investors, many of whom bring a unique understanding of the founder journey, including the often difficult and isolating experience of shutting down a startup. This conversation goes beyond just fundraising tactics. Jaclyn's investors weren't chosen just for their capital, but for their empathy and shared experiences in the trenches of entrepreneurship. We'll discuss the often overlooked topic of startup shutdowns, the emotional toll on founders, and why having investors who truly understand that journey can make all the difference. Whether you're a first-time founder or someone who's been through the highs and lows of startup life, this episode gives valuable insights into building meaningful investor relationships rooted in understanding and shared experience. So let's get into it. Thank you for coming.
Of course.
I would love to kind of go back to kind of your origin story.
Oh boy. Okay. So yeah, I grew up in Hong Kong, in a pretty traditional family, and with a bit of a wrinkle, traditional in the sense of, my dad is a general practitioner and a surgeon, but he had his own practice. And, actually a big part of my family are entrepreneurs. Half of my cousins are now founders. My brother is also a founder. I'm a founder. Yeah. So it's actually quite funny because I don't think my parents intended for it to turn out this way. I think my parents were very much like, oh, you should be a lawyer or an accountant. And I said, absolutely not. And look at where I'm in now. But yeah, so I grew up in Hong Kong, and I came to the States when I was in high school, and then stayed in New York for college and for my first company too. And then I started my career. I founded my first company in college. And then I decamped for Berlin for close to a decade, and I came back to New York. I was in Berlin when I founded my second company, and then I came back to New York, and now I'm working on Starcycle. That's a very, very long story short of my origin story, I guess.
And when did you learn how to speak German fluently enough to be living in Berlin?
Oh, when I first arrived, the only thing I knew how to say was, would you like some orange juice? So that was the only thing I knew how to say, and hello, and small things. And it was, This has been very much a double-edged sword, but I'm a very stubborn person. And when I put my mind to something, I'm going to make it happen. And it was very important to me that I would be able to, I wanted to be able to communicate with my husband's family. That was a big part of the driving force behind that. And also I wanted to live somewhere and be able to fully experience as much as I can, local culture, make local friends and all of those types of things. I didn't want to just be a tourist in my own home.
Yeah.
And so I would say the first year or two were pretty tough. And a light, the switch kind of went, or the light bulb kind of went off around the 3-year mark or 2.5, 3-year mark, when I started being able to, I think a big part of it was when I would be at the dog park or like whatever, and someone would speak to me, assuming I speak the language because we have a dog, and I was able to respond, and the other person didn't immediately switch to English. And I was like, okay, I think I made it.
Big deal.
It is. And yeah, fast forward, I have friends I only speak German too. And I'm able to have a great conversation with my husband's family, can like stay with them for like a week, 3 weeks, and just basically only speak in German. My brain stops working like after that much German, but yeah, it is. It's something I'm very proud of.
Yeah, it's a big deal because I lived in Costa Rica for 8 years and I started 2 companies there.
Okay.
And I was conducting business in Spanish. But after a while, sometimes people would switch to English.
Yeah.
That's like, they're like, first they say, oh, you speak Spanish. You speak Spanish so well. And then they say something in English. You're like, oh, man.
Yeah.
So that's a very big deal.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Congratulations on that. And what personally drove you to start Starcycle?
Honestly, it was just directly born out of my own experience having shut down companies. And so, I kind of mentioned it earlier. I founded my first company in college, and that was a bit of a right idea, but wrong time for me personally. And so in a way, the shutdown, I grieved it a lot. It was, of course, your first love almost, right? Like you kind of, it's hard to let go, but it felt almost inevitable. But it was the second time around that really was the driving force behind what, led me to start Starcycle eventually. And, when you go from what feels like you're top of the world, we had, so just a little bit of an overview. My first company, I was building a fashion app, and it was like a personal stylist for men. And so the idea was it would, you probably kind of see a lot of these now kind of coming out. There's a couple I think that came out from YC. I think like Phoebe Gates is working on something similar now. It's like all kind of in the fashion tech space, but ultimately it was an algorithmic personal shopper that would take into account your style preferences, calendar events, and kind of weather conditions of the day. And it would generate outfit recommendations for you that were fully shoppable. That was my very first idea, and I worked on it my senior year in college. The second company was we're building software for art galleries. So effectively a dual-sided kind of CRM that allows blue chip artists and art galleries to get to know their collectors, and their collectors to effectively track their collections and how the collections are doing over time, with a focus specifically on high-end kind of physical art. And the second time around, it was close to a home run. We didn't quite get there at the end, unfortunately, but we, at our peak, we had like 45,000 users, and, we were profitable. We were on track to exiting, and like there was a lot of things that were going really, really well, and the market crashed. Modern art still hasn't really recovered as an industry, and having to say goodbye to that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Above all, it was, the experience of having to look, virtually, we were all scattered around the world, like over the pandemic, but effectively having to look everyone in the eyes and say, you believed in us, you trusted us, and this was for investors and our team alike, right? Like everybody, and say,
and users, your customers,
and our customers, like being like, you believed in us, and we failed, and I'm sorry. And that honestly just sent me into a very, very serious depression for a long time.
Yeah.
And coming out of that and realizing, yes, shutting down sucks. Why does it have to suck that much? And it really was, there was no other inspiration in a way. I just wanted to like build something that would make it better for one person. I was like, I want to meet one founder who's going through this, and I want to change their lives for the better.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the origin story.
But it's huge because we spoke prior to this and
Yeah.
shared our shutdown stories, but no one tells you
No.
how to do this.
No.
It's really like up until now, it's been
Yeah.
like you kind of fumble your way through it.
Yes.
You're usually under-resourced because you're running out of cash if you haven't already run out of cash.
Yeah.
And it's this process like of a personal like ego death.
Yeah.
At least this is how I experienced it.
Mhm.
And then having to processing that.
Yeah.
And then having to tell your investors
Mm-hmm.
and dealing with that.
Yeah.
And then having to tell your team.
Yes.
And then having to tell your customers. And
Yes.
each one, there's like grieving along the way because I had a startup that I shut down in 2019 and I still
Mhm.
have people reaching out to me to see if I still have
Yeah.
products for them.
Yeah.
They're like, that was the best thing ever. I'm so sad you had to shut down. I'm like, yeah, me too. But but it's really hard.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like a lot of people are going through this. If they've paid themselves,
Mm-hmm.
they haven't paid themselves well for years.
Oh yeah.
And so there's financial stress.
Mm-hmm.
There's this idea of like, I felt like I had no worth
Mm-hmm.
because
your whole
net worth
identity,
yes.
net worth, but also your identity. Like, what do you do when you've been founder of blah for so long?
Yeah, it's incredible. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like you've been grinding so hard, you've been resilient, you've really been pushing this thing, you've been telling people everything's great
Yeah.
for so long because it can be great and
Yeah.
also struggling at the same time.
Of course.
And then you're like, oh my God.
That 100%. That was very much it. And in our case, the time period between, this is actually happening. It was, I could not, it sounds even crazy to me now, like saying it out loud, but like on the day, like the founders had come together and were like, okay, we're going to do this thing. I remember that day, I basically was like, we are going to exit to these guys.
Mhm.
Like this, I named a company and I like had it on a vision board, right?
Yeah.
I was like, we're going to
This is the
exit to these
beginning.
guys. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
This was like in 2020.
Mhm.
I was like, we're gonna, that's gonna happen. And fast forward to, the year we didn't make it, we were in talks with that exact company. And so it was happening. Like I finally, maybe foolish in hindsight, but like it was progressing to the point where I was like, I am going to allow myself maybe to daydream a little bit of like, okay, everything that we've been working towards is coming true. It's happening. And from that point to, oh God, like we're done, was, I think, less than 3 months.
It's terrible.
And a big part of it was also because emotionally it was so difficult. And I know within the founders, some of us struggled with it more than others, and it's a really, really hard thing to come back from.
Yeah.
And that was ultimately why we decided that it was time to let it go, because we just couldn't. I wanted to keep going, but there was also a part of like I need to take a step back for myself, and so. To your point, yeah, it's ego death, it's identity death, it's death every time you tell someone it's not working for whatever reason. It was, my God, death when I had to tell my parents. Like it was a lot, and there was definitely a moment where I was like, do I wanna like go back to doing something a bit more stable? But I think my parents maybe secretly wanted that, but then I just felt this calling. Like I could not build something again. And here we are, third time's a charm, I think.
Yeah. And so and I also shared like what I did after that was I thought I was going to be sitting on my couch crying for 6 months.
Which I did, well, no shame, I did.
I made it about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And an opportunity came to me through the work that I had done building my startup. So like, I want there to be a message in this podcast that like when you shut down your company, you're not necessarily going to be walking dogs for WAG or cutting tomatoes for Sbarro Pizzeria. Like this does not negate everything you've done.
Yeah.
Which I very much felt. And
Right.
I speak to founders a lot about this. And there's that feeling they're like, what am I going to do? Am I going to be a temp? You know, like,
Yeah,
this does not mean that you're worthless.
It absolutely does not.
Yeah.
And for the record, if you want to be a dog walker afterwards, that's totally chill. Do your thing. I did think about it for a while.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, like
I got
love dogs.
approved by WAG.
Yeah. Oh, you did. I never got that far.
But then I got hired to be CEO of another company.
Right.
Through all the connections I had made. And unfortunately, the company I took over, and I've shared this before, is the founder had broken her back building her company and had spinal surgery scheduled.
Oh, literally.
Literally broken her. Like I felt like my back was broken mentally and emotionally and financially, but she literally had broken my back.
Yeah.
She interviewed me because they were looking for a replacement. She liked me. The board liked me. I was like, what? You're going to pay me? I'm in. Like I get paid every week or every 2 weeks. This is amazing. So I joined this other company and then soon after found out that they were also in challenging. I didn't do my due diligence. They were in a challenging position, but it was a gift to me to. And then I had to tell the board that we were probably going to need to shut down or raise another round. We were unable to raise another round, so we shut down. But this time I had the chance to do it elegantly, and I knew more of what I was doing. Right, I already had the resources. I already had my team in place, and so after that, I thought about doing something along the lines of what you're doing, which is like become a shutdown specialist.
Yeah.
And instead I decided, no, that's a little bit too dark for me at that point, but there's such a need.
Yeah.
Is what my point is being.
100%. And you know, for me, the darkness of it, if you will, was what drew me towards it, because I think there's, you know, I think you alluded to it in your intro, but like so many people talk about it, you know, or rally around you when things are on the up and up, right? And that's human nature, right? Almost like, and when things aren't going so well, that's when, you know, there's everything around like you know who your real friends are and like the real ones come out type of thing.
Yeah.
And I had incredible support, like from my husband, my friends, you know, the team that I had to lay off. They, you know, the first thing that they said back to me when I broke the news was, you know, we're gonna be fine. Are you okay?
Yeah.
And just, you know, having gone through, thank you, and having gone through that, I, you know, was very, as morbid as it may sound, like I was very drawn to this darkness that you speak of. But in my mind, again, you know, it's starting to feel like a broken record a little bit, right? But like, I think this is not the end if you don't want it to be. And that was very much the case for me. And I'm like, I know that it's not the end, and for if you don't want it to be, and hopefully your circumstances don't dictate that it's the end. But and we see that in the folks that we work with as well, like with our clients and our customers. A lot of them actually come to us because they're already working on a new idea, or like some of them in that case they've gotten into, you know, a Y Combinator or like whatever it is, and they're like, we want to close this out cleanly so that like I can reorient myself and start anew, and that is a great. To me, I love being in that spot, because an end can be a new beginning if you want it to be. And I see myself as like the shepherd almost of that. And that's also reflected in the name. That's also reflected in the branding. It's like this cycle. It's a rebirth. It's, you know, stars die and they rise again. It's Phoenix. Phoenix was a little too on the nose. I didn't want to go that route, but you know, like that, yes. You know, that kind of that feeling of rebirth and new beginnings, and that's really what we're here for, and that, you know, hopefulness is something that I very intentionally have it permeating through all of our, you know, everything from the emails that we send to our customers and to our clients, to our social media posts, to the brand colors that we're using, right? Like, so everything is kind of oriented towards that.
Amazing. And so we've talked about you being through a shutdown before. So what was your experience starting Starcycle? Like, tell me, did you already have a team that you were thinking about?
No.
Like, how did you get started?
I had, so what's interesting and what's kind of funny is that it took me a couple iterations for me to come back to shutting down. And so in the beginning, I knew, and it's, it's kind of funny, but working on Starcycle was almost born out of this. I wanted to prove to myself almost that I could still be a founder. And so what we started out with was I wanted to build things that helped founders get new businesses off the ground. And so, I think ChatGPT or GPT-3 had literally come out like a month before, and I was like, boom, that's it. Like that is going to be a game changer. I don't know how yet, but I'm going to figure it out. And the very first iteration of Starcycle, and I enlisted my husband for help, and we kind of teamed up on it for a while, was a business plan generator, effectively. And this was almost like Perplexity before Perplexity was Perplexity, or in the current form that it is. And the idea was that we would automate research, like market research, and help you figure out your next steps as you get off the ground. And we got like a 1,000, 2,000 users. So it was like we're at a decent spot. And we had inbound interest from great investors who really loved the direction we were heading in, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wanted to work on the thing that no one understood. And so that was also tough. I had to send an email to all of our clients, to all of our users, being like, "Hey, so we're actually changing it up," and we got a lot of confused emails, being like, "But why? You made such a difference." I was like, "Eh." As I just wanted to go back to this, and when that pivot happened, I wasn't sure. I really didn't know, and all I knew was I want to work on this. I cannot ignore that feeling that I just want to figure it out. And so I did, of course, do a little bit of market research, and I talked to lawyers, I talked to founders, I talked to founders I knew like personally had gone through this, and I just felt enough of a undercurrent of pain, if you will, that I knew I wanted to build something. And I was like, even if it helps one person, that's cool. I will figure it out. And that's effectively what happened. I posted on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, so we're gonna help people close their companies now, something along those lines. And we got our first sign up within the first hour. Completely sight unseen. And this person ended up being a paid customer.
Yeah.
Or a paying client, our very first client. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, if someone is willing to book a call completely sight unseen, no idea who I was. I think we had a couple of mutuals, but I didn't know this person personally, and they didn't know me either. And I was like, if the pain is so big that it would drive someone to do that immediately, then this is bigger than me.
Yeah.
And that was, and I just ran with it. And that was how we got started. I just wasn't, a big contrast to how I have been a very type A, like perfectionist kind of person my whole life. And I was starting to unlearn that with my second company. And this was just like rapid deconstruction of the self in real time. I was like, okay, I will just figure it out.
We're just
I'm
gonna
gonna do it. Let's just do it. I'm just not gonna overthink it. I'm just gonna like roll with it. I might have had a small panic attack before the call. So, oh my God, I can't believe this is actually happening. And then I was like, okay, let's do it. And like fast forward to now. This was about a year-ish ago, I think, last summer.
Yeah.
And now we've worked with like several hundred founders.
Oh, wow.
And it's been, small business owners and startup founders alike. And it's just been, yeah. Now it's like I can do this in my sleep. I feel very confident, but like I wasn't sure. I really wasn't. And hopefully, this person feels like I did the right thing.
And how did your like pricing evolve? Because you've got like a very flat pricing now, right?
Yeah. So it did take a bit of trial and error. And of course there were, we've been very great. We've had some very great partners work with us, and they were transparent about, the CPA partners that we work with. They were transparent about how they would price things. And so we did have some benchmarks to go off of. And, it really was a iteration over time. And, the first 10, 20, 30 folks that we worked with, it very much felt almost like hand-to-hand combat. Everything was net new almost. Like I had my own experience to draw from, but everything else was like, okay, we're going to figure this out in real time.
Yeah.
And after a while, you start seeing patterns and you're like, okay, for a lot of these folks, these are the things that they need help with. These are the filings we always need to do. And that was like the foundation of what we are able to automate. That is, and then, you know, we've also gotten very good at, you know, gleaning the level of complexity and the level of care that someone needs within the first couple of minutes of the call, and then the call turned into a self-service onboarding, and then, you know, like we just get better at it over time. And so being able to recognize the patterns from a distance, in real time in a way, that is honestly one of my favorite things to do, is to be in the trenches and be able to work with founders on that granular level, do things that don't scale type of thing. But having done that, that allows us to, you know, extrapolate, okay, what do these people need? And so from a billing perspective, it's very much a reflective of the learnings that we've gotten to, you know, we've learned, I guess, along the way. And yeah, being able to standardize pricing was something that a lot of founders have, and a lot of business owners have found really, really helpful, because that's one of our commitments to them, is that you know, we're genuinely here to help. And there's a lot of reasons, very valid reasons, as to why for a lot of services or tech-enabled services, that they end up using something like billable hours. This was something that I personally wanted to make sure that, to the best of our ability, we wouldn't have to do, because it gives folks a lot of peace of mind if they just have one thing up front. So that was, again, drawing very much from my own experience of having gone through this. What could I have used when I was going through this, and really just using that as the launching point for every decision that we make.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say again to like founders, if you're thinking about this, if it's like keeping you up at night, if you're staring at your like your disappearing runway and you want to like just kind of gutturally scream, like it's probably time to start talking to people.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that that is the way that you're going necessarily. That's not a commitment, but learning more about what that option is very helpful.
Yeah.
And can help you sleep at night.
Yeah.
To allow you to process better and make better decisions.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of very empathetic people in this world.
They want to help.
Yeah.
You have to let them help.
Yeah.
And that, you know, I don't have a lot of regrets in life. I try not to live that way.
Yeah.
And that is probably one of my biggest regrets, is that the last time we were going through it, I didn't ask for help sooner.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I physically.
Yeah. It's like, no, you can't.
Yeah. It felt like there was something physically stopping me from doing that.
Yeah.
And I remember I finally did. And I told I told our investors that, you know, things weren't going well. And I got a very firm but gentle but firm talking to, of like, why didn't you tell us sooner?
Yeah.
We could have helped. This you did not have to carry this alone.
Yeah.
And that has very much stuck with me, of like, they're right. Like, why didn't I say it sooner?
Yeah.
And there's, you know, I don't let myself dwell on the what could have happened if anything, you know, if I had said something sooner. But I do tell the founders that we work with now, like, it is going to be hard, and we're here to help. And a lot of them, I think, at least anecdotally, what we've been told is that a lot of our clients feel like they can ask these questions because they know they're talking to someone who has been through it. And so we actually have that as part of our coverage, is like, we help you have these hard conversations. We can't have them for you because that's not what we're here for. And, you know, these are your relationships. You should be the one who to have them, but we'll help you prepare. We'll, you know, for all the questions you're like, should I say this? What do I say? Like, how do I say something? We're here for that prep almost, so that we can help you do that part of the conversation. And we get a lot of feedback from folks that this is like super helpful. And again, it's almost like healing a little part of myself that I wish I did that. I wish I had done it properly. And it is bar none one of the hardest things that, paperwork is annoying, right? That if you file something wrong, it's a hassle. You probably get a scary letter from the state, but these are like relatively fixable problems. Asterisk, unless you committed fraud, which don't do that. Like this, I can't give legal advice, but that is definitely legal advice. Don't commit fraud. Don't lie. But the part of like having to look someone in the eye and say, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm scared. I don't, like, that is the hardest part. And it's understandable, right? Like everyone wants to put on that brave face, but sometimes when you let people in, you would be surprised at the response.
Yeah. And I would say that once you decide that this is something you're doing,
Yeah.
start the conversations.
Yeah.
And if you do choose to shut down, have those conversations with your investors sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
I found it very helpful to batch it all
Yeah.
in one day to get it but I felt so much better
Mm-hmm.
after I did that.
Yeah. And also, like, practically, like, not to get too in the weeds of this,
Yeah.
but like there are costs to shutting down, like whether you use a service like us or anything like that, or you decide to do it yourself, there are costs to shutting down that like you don't want to be at like zero and then be like, oh crap, like we have taxes and we have all these things, like, so there is a practical aspect of it, but to your point, like you want to allow people time to help before you get boxed into a corner, because that is when the rescue operation, if anything, is pretty difficult. You want to ideally, not be falling off the edge of the cliff for someone to be able to like, okay, let's like finagle something to bring you back.
Yeah.
So.
And in this world, I didn't find anybody that worked for free because they get paid up front first. Rightly so. But yeah. Something I wanted to just emphasize about what you've been talking about. It's like you were building somewhat in public. You talked about this. You got your first customer. I think that's brilliant. You did a lot of customer development and research, which is incredible. Like I know a lot of founders who are just like, I need to get investors before I can get started with anything. And I'm like, no. Yeah, that backwards. Like you need to start talking about this. You need to start talking to potential customers and getting data to see if there's a need for this. So I love that we were talking about both of those things. And then getting started before it was perfect.
Yeah.
And using that as research to move towards where you are now. Yeah. It's brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah. And, I kind of live by, or I try to live by a mantra, especially having gone through the founder gauntlet a couple of times, is like, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
That's just really how I think about it. It's like, almost nothing survives its first contact with reality anyway. Like you're going to think about all the ways that someone in a perfect scenario is going to use your product, is going to like, I'll do it. And you get the product out there and you're like, oh, it's almost like your users, your customers, whoever it is, they almost find the one thing you thought they weren't going to do and they're going to do that. Yeah. And so if it's not going to survive that first contact anyway, you might as well just get it out early and use that to iterate. And so this was something that I, very, very candidly did not come easily to me. I grew up very much like, everything needs to be perfect. Failure's not an option. Like, you need to go to Ivy League. Spoiler, I didn't, right? Like, you gotta do all the things and you gotta do it right. There's only kind of one way to do something. And then realizing that rarely ends up that way, especially as a founder, especially in the early days, and really just having that be the foundation of it all. And of course, from our end, we like, what's important for us is that we also get it right. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we do have to get it right given the stakes involved. So I do want to mention that we do all of that right. And maybe an addendum to that is that there are moments where you do have to be perfect, and you identify those and you be relentless about what those things are. A lot of the things you can just let go. And that is also a hard lesson to learn. So no better time to learn than doing it in real time. Because if you never start, it's always going to be perfect because it always lives in your head. And you're going to be disappointed anyway. So you might as well just try first. Try
and get the feedback and get used to getting the feedback. And I think that another thing to say is that, if you do this right, you may have investors that come back to you and say, I'm going to back you on the next thing.
100%. And we see that happening. We see we see these conversations happen in real time. We see folks who, are able to preserve their relationships and go on to work with the same investors again. And for the record, like on the other side of the table, the investors who talk to us, they say that, for obviously they backed a founder for a reason. And barring again any weird fraudulent activity type of deal, right? Again, don't do it. Just life pro tip in general. But barring any activity like that, they want the opportunity to at least be considered, or at least to consider working with you again. If not just straight up, they want to work with you again. And if you just dip on them, that leaves a sour taste in everybody's mouths. But if you do it properly, you face it head on. Investors, they know, and I'm sure right? Like investors know that this happens. It just is part of what it means to be a founder, is that a lot of the times, many of the times, it's not going to work. But what matters is you get up and you face it head on and you try again. And we've had, on my end at least, like with Starcycle, we've had we have incredible investors. I'm so grateful for each and every one of them, just for believing in us from the very beginning, where I was like, I don't know, this is just something I want to do. But and a lot of what they've said is also that, having gone through failure at that level makes you a better founder. And we, as in I'm speaking on their behalf, but like we want to work with someone and back someone who knows what it's like to fail, so that it's almost like a survival instinct to never get there again. And so weirdly enough, it's like this, if you play your cards right, if you allow yourself to feel that way, it really can be such a positive driving force for doing something new. And I know I kind of drifted off topic there a little bit, but ultimately your character really shows when the chips are down. And people want to work with someone they can rally behind. And those are the moments where if you allow it to come through, if you do the right thing, like that really is something that people won't forget.
I want to talk about your investors.
Sure.
So what was your idea? Like, when did you decide that you wanted to bring investors in? And how did you find them, choose them, et cetera? Because I know you're very intentional about who you chose. So as I kind of already said, like, launched Starcycle with not really thinking about that. I just wanted to work on something that set my soul on fire, if you will. And one of our biggest believers, his name is Calvin. He's actually he's one of our advisors, and he used to be I'm forgive me, Calvin, for butchering your job title, but he was the head of legal at WeWork, like global head of commercial product legal, something like that. Something like
something along those lines. There's big fancy titles. The biggest company I've ever worked for was 120 people. We didn't have your job title was 3 words. There was not like multiple suffixes and prefixes, right? But anyway, so he had been working on probably one of the most publicized turnarounds of recent history, if not of all time. And when we met, I was very much in the noodling phase of like, I know I want to build something to help founders and companies going through tough times to do stuff. So it was very nebulous, right? And he believed in us, believed in me so much that a big part of why I ended up deciding to open up a round was because he was like, I just really want to support you. And the best way to do that is to put money where my mouth is. So I would love to be able to back you in this way. And it took a bit of convincing, because I wasn't entirely sure. And if I've learned one thing about being a founder, is that be intentional about how and when you take money. If you do, like, there are many ways to build a company. You can do whatever you want. But that was very much like, okay, I really do think that this is, again, bigger than me. bigger than my belief in this if there are people who want to be a part of it just because they resonate with the mission so much, just because they believe in me so much. And I decided to, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I only want to work with people who get it. And this was very much, again, a reflection of where we were at the time, of me being very upfront about, I just want to help founders shut down their companies. Of course, my thinking and the company has grown quite a bit since then, but like at that moment in time, it was very much, I know there are enough founders who need this, and I just want to work on this and see where it goes. I don't have a crystal ball, but that's I just want to get started. As the kids like to say, they can just do things, right? So I'm just gonna do this thing. And so once I had made once I had made the decision of, I'm going to open up a small round, I knew I wanted to only work with people who understood that. And for me, unequivocally, that would be founders who have been through it.
Yeah.
It was either that or operators like Calvin, who had either had a personal experience with it or had seen it happen at scale enough. And so and I only talked to folks that kind of fell into that category. And so I put together a deck. I didn't, honestly, it was just like, I'm just going to slap this together and see what happens. It was very much like I'm focused on figuring out what filings my customers need, and less so on the deck itself. And saw it made its way, through DocsEnd. So it made its way through a lot of places, and got a great amount of inbound interest, almost entirely from founders who were like, I saw the tagline and was like, holy crap, this brought me right back to that moment when I went through this. And even if just for past me alone, I want to be a part of this, so that, because the pain was so deep. And yeah, so the whole round came together super quickly. I think we were done in like 2-3 weeks or so. Just
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that was it. And I was like, okay, cool. We have a great list of a great set of founders that want it back, and also operators like who have worked with founders and kind of see this at scale. Folks and we have some VCs who joined on, like, personally. Actually, one of our customers is one of our investors, and so it's very much like rooted in this feeling of, we just want to help make sure that no one feels alone.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a big reason why I wanted to be super intentional about it, because I was like, regardless of whether you join or not, I am driving towards this North Star, so you can be on the ride or not. And that was very much the philosophy.
So it's always hard when founders hear like, oh, I just threw something together and I was closed 2 or 3 weeks later. But
Yeah.
I want to emphasize, like, you're building in public.
Yeah.
You had already talked about this.
Yes.
You probably already had customers at this
We
point.
did. Yes.
You had customer relationships and done a lot of, like, you'd talked to a lot of people, and you probably had a network.
I did. I did have a network, and so I think I personally, I love that you brought this up, because I think a lot of people when they think of networking, they think of going to events. They think of like very transactional, like, what's your LinkedIn? Here's my QR code, right? Like, there's a lot of that, and I've always been, I always say, and this is like something that is very true to me, and perhaps is how I was brought up, is very much this idea of like, everything takes a village. You have to be the village. You have to, be a part of one. You have to build your own villages, and you be a part of other people's villages, right? And so there a big, for me, this was kind of over time. I've just been able to meet a lot of really, really awesome people through my career, from having interned for great folks and just staying in touch with them, and all the way to just like, hey, I'm just a very curious person, and I just love meeting people. And I'm just so fascinated by people in general. I think everyone has a story to tell. Everyone is more interesting than you're willing to give them credit for. Like, I think it's so easy for this is a bit of an hot take maybe, but like I think it's so tempting for a lot of folks to say, oh, there's this NPC behavior or like, that kind of thing. I don't believe that's
going
true.
through my head.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. Like I
Yeah.
think that is, to me, that is such an unfair way to go through life.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the point being that I have just loved meeting people over many, many, many years. And so I've given to my network, I've given to my village. And when I needed help, when I was like, hey, I think I'm ready to do this thing, honestly, a big part of my village responded before I even said it, right? To my point, like people were like, hey, I just want to be a part of this. Let us do the thing. Let us be a part of it. Let us back you. And the other parts were like, all I needed to do was send a text and ask, and people were willing to put their weights behind me. People were willing to stick their necks out for me. And this is something that I will never forget. One of my friends in particular, Jimmy, his one email that he sent out to like his network got like half of our round filled.
Yeah.
Just because Jimmy was like, I believe in her and I want to make this happen because it's needed. And from that on, all the dominoes just fell. And I thank him a lot. He's probably like, stop doing that. But I do, because I think it's important.
Yeah.
And yeah, so network, yes, but really just building a network, building your villages because you believe in them and not because it's transactional. Of course, there is some element of like, we're going to help each other out, that type of thing. But that really is just a part of it, right? It's high trust. It's like everyone helps each other out. And that's what I've really loved about being a founder, really, is that folks are, I think we said it, like, there are a lot of empathetic people in this world. There are a lot of people who want to help, and you just have to let them help.
But I also want to I'm always pointing to things that you did in the past that help make this happen. Right? Your network, your own community.
Yeah.
But then also having a product or having something you're building that's really compelling. Like, we can't underestimate that.
Thank you.
Because like, I met someone the other night who I was interviewing just for a mini interview, and she told me what she's working on. I'm like, oh my God, I need to connect you with this person.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, I just so believed in what she's doing. Whereas other times I get asked to intro and I'm like, I don't know that I have that level of conviction. And it makes it harder to make an intro that's like, you've got to talk to this person. Like, this has to happen.
100%.
So, it basically says that, you're creating something, there's a high trust factor, and people really felt strongly.
Yeah. It's very much I would say it's a byproduct of the way I treat my friends and like my network, hopefully. But yeah, to your point, just being visible, actually making it happen, making something happen, taking an idea out of your head and letting it survive its first contact, right? As I said earlier, I think that's super important because it is so hard to get to that level, right? It's, I think Couch to 5K or like Atomic Habits, like the book, kind of popularized this idea, but like going to the gym, I should take my own advice here, specifically about going to the gym, but going to the gym, the hardest part is getting there. Once you're there, you're like, well, I'm already here. I might as well go on the treadmill for 30 minutes, right? But it's literally leaving the house.
Yeah.
It's or your desk or wherever you decide that entry point is, right? That is the hardest thing to do. But if you're like, I'm going to put my sneakers right next to my bed, I'm going to have my gym bag already packed, and then when you lower that friction for yourself, then you're like, I might as well. I'm already up.
Yeah.
I might as well put on my shoes and go to the gym.
Yeah. I
should take my own advice. But for the gym specifically. But and it's the same idea for building a company. Like, you're like, whatever the equivalent is of the gym shoes next to your bed, the equivalent of your gym bag is already packed and your Stanley already has ice water, whatever that is for you. And just doing it and committing to it. And I think that takes you so much further already. And I might not immediately understand what you're doing, let's say it's, let's say you're building a product in something that I don't really have knowledge in, but I know someone who does. If I can feel that you're committed and you're equally passionate, then I'm would be willing to say, hey, like, you should talk to my buddy who, spends a lot of time in that space. I don't know enough about it to help, but like that kind of thing. And so I think that if you don't believe in yourself to that level, who is going to believe in you?
Yeah.
Right. And that has to come first. You have to believe in yourself so deeply and unapologetically that like people are like, well, yeah, duh. If I cannot help but be swayed by how deeply committed you are to something. And yeah, so I think we're in full alignment there.
Yeah. But I just want to like, that's commitment, conviction, passion, preparation, and clarity, I think.
Yes. For yourself.
Yeah.
To the thing you're working on.
If you're waffling, if you're like, I'm doing this thing, but I'm all like, it just confuses the hell out of people.
Exactly. You just have to be singularly, maniacally focused on it. Yeah.
And then it's harder to not do it.
Exactly.
Than it is to do it. Like to use a gym example. Like if you're already wearing your gym clothes, you already got your Stanley and you've got your shoes on.
You might as well, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to go. And then you're going to feel great about yourself. I really should. I feel like I'm attacking myself. I'm gonna guilt myself with the gym later.
No, it's okay. Empathy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's already hard enough.
Let's see. So we talked about a lot of the questions I have. Along the way, were there any tough conversations you had in this race?
Ooh, I mean, always. There's always, tough conversations. I think come from there's many different types of tough conversations. And very thankfully for this particular angel round, a lot of the tough conversations that could have happened were very much, de-risked, if you will, because the person had gone through it themselves. And so that was a big part of it as well, was for me strategically understanding what might be some of the toughest conversations that someone might want to have, and then de-risking it by like, hey, let's anchor it in your own experience, right? And I think you can extrapolate that to, that's why people say, oh, do your research on the VCs that you talk to and blah, blah, and make sure that they invest in your thesis, or like the partner that you want to lead the deal or whatever it is, or the associate that you're speaking to, whoever it is, has a personal vested interest or track record in that thing. It's the same idea, right? So you want some of these things de-risked, but probably the toughest conversations came from, people being like, are you sure this is what you want to work on? And it makes a ton of sense of like, it's very depressing. It's difficult. It's not exactly the kind of thing that gets people like that lights people up when you talk about it. It can be very somber, and it does. And I want to give it that gravitas, but they were like, is this something you genuinely want to do for the foreseeable future?
Yeah.
And just be singularly focused on helping people get through tough times every single day, day in and day out. And for me, that I loved being confronted with that question over and over again, because it allowed me to just deepen my conviction. And I was like, yes, absolutely. There was no question about it. And, there were some people who were like, on second thought, I don't know if I want to think about this day in and day out. And so, it wasn't 100% hit rate, right? Like we did have a couple of folks who were like, oh, it's just not, I personally love it, but, on second thought, it's not quite. But from my side, I think the tough conversations are the best ones, because back to what we were saying earlier, if you aren't, relentlessly dedicated and passionate about this one thing, how can anyone have conviction in you? And so I loved every time being challenged. Are you sure? Like, and all the jokes about like being the Grim Reaper. I was like, I mean, haha, but this is why. And again, it was a reinforcement mechanism for me. So I very much appreciated that. Also, I lied. The toughest question was my parents being like, "Are you sure you want to be a founder again?" That was a fun conversation. I think, let me be clear. They are perhaps now very supportive. I think they were very confused for a bit. They were like, why did both of our children become founders? Like, what happened? Um, but I think they really do see, again, the dedication kind of just emanating off of us. It's undeniable. Both my brother, he's based in Hong Kong, and like he has his business in Hong Kong. He has his company in Hong Kong. I'm here in New York. And they see it just giving us so much purpose and direction that I think ultimately that's what my parents really wanted, was to see us just like be so locked in on something that, even if they don't 100% understand it, that they see how much impact we're making on ourselves, but also on other people. And but that was a tough conversation. Also because I said, by the way, I think I'm gonna stay in New York, and they're like, what? But that's a whole topic for another day.
Well, I also think that, when parents are asking that sort of, my parents, I came from a very professional background, thought about being a lawyer, thought about being a doctor, ended up being a founder instead. Thought about getting a necklace
Kindred
that
spirits.
has a
Yeah.
black sheep on it, but there's, but I think, looking back and looking
Yeah.
at where we've been, both of us, like,
Yeah,
it just can be a very challenging
for sure.
place to be as a founder.
For sure.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
You feel like you've got your purpose.
Yeah.
It's an amazing quality of life in some ways, and challenging in others.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. And also having to seek it out. Like,
Yes.
my husband, again, also a founder. Like, we talk about this a lot, and there's a lot of points in our life when we look back, that we've been together on this journey, that we could have chosen a different path. Like, we could have chosen something that, a more predictable, or whatever that definition is, right? I talk with my hands a lot, so I just like swipe the mic. Whoops. And that was like a mic drop kind of moment. But no, and every single junction, we were like, we want to choose the hard, but we want to choose our hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And being a founder is just that over and over again. And this is on a micro level, on the day to day. Like, I used to joke with my husband a lot. Now it's a little too real for me to joke about it, but like, I think the second time around, again, the second company, I told him, if I had known that being a founder had this much paperwork, I don't know if I would have ever done it. And look at me now again. But you can't opt out, especially in the early days. Like, you it's gonna suck, and you're gonna do it. And you have to consistently choose it every day.
Yeah.
You could procrastinate for like a day, right? But like, you're gonna have to wake up and like do the hard thing.
Yeah, because
every day
gonna do it.
And then you're gonna look up, and you're gonna see your friends going on vacation, and you're gonna be like, I am going to the most exotic place of all. I'm going back to my desk, right? And every single day in and day out, and you just have to choose that.
Yeah.
And I personally love it. I don't know how I would do it any other way at this point. I probably don't know if I could do it anything else. But it does take a very different. It's a very different choice from what my parents, I think, were hoping for for me.
Yeah, but it all
Yeah.
worked out.
But well, I hope so.
How do you think the startup community can be better at supporting founders through shutdowns?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think I think having the conversations is a big part of it. I think something that's more tangible is, not only celebrating those who make it, but also celebrating might not feel like the right word, but celebrating effectively all the work that has gone into every single attempt at trying. And I think it was one of the founders at Stripe. I think it might have been Patrick, who said this, and it had just kind of stuck with me. I am so sorry if it's not Patrick. But I think he said something along the lines of, everything that you see around you, regardless of, it's this plant, it's the mics that we're using, it's, this, is it neon or is it, the neon lights, everything that we see around us, the jacket that I'm wearing, the jacket that you're wearing, it happens because someone willed it into existence. And the world is a museum of your passion projects. And I just believe in that so deeply. And I think the startup community should embrace that. It's like just every swing should count. Every swing should be celebrated, because you cannot take for granted the world progressing in a certain way. You have to make it happen. Everyone has the power to move the needle in the direction they want it to. And I think specifically in the startup world, it's so easy to focus on the swings that made the home run. I don't know anything about baseball. But celebrate those, but also celebrate the ones who unfortunately had to strike out, who made it to first and second base but didn't make it any further, or that's where the analogy ends, because I genuinely don't know anything about baseball other than Wii Sports.
Well, I will say, no, I'll continue the analogy just for a few minutes of someone who knows it's a little bit more. But even the best hitters, the top of the heap national players, they still strike out.
They do. And it should be talked about, and the effort that goes into every one of these should be celebrated.
Yeah.
It's like, there's, in the same way that you celebrate, again, like a milestone, you should also celebrate the life of what you have accomplished, like with your company. And I just be a good friend. I think it's so hard. And I totally get it. When you're so focused on your company, you're like, I don't even have time to eat, so I'm going to drink Soylent, right? Which, by the way, I just don't. I would be a husk of myself if I didn't allow myself joy in the name of food from time to time. But some people are like, I'm not going to judge, maybe a little bit. You do what you want. But it's so easy to be like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for my friends. I don't have time for, for my spouse. I don't have, all of these things. And I would say just the grass is greener where you water it. And so just be better friends to each other.
Yeah.
And that's something that I hold very, very, very dearly to me. I get very emotional talking about my friends, but like, oh my God, I love my friends. I have a lot of friends who are founders. I have a lot of friends who are not founders. Both sides equally important to me. I want to be able to turn off my brain from time to time. It's healthy, it's needed. But then I also want people who like really understand the struggle and the grind, right? So it works out. But yeah, for other people to be a good friend to you, you also have to be a good friend to them. You can't take people for granted. And so this is, as a community, show up for each other, not just when things are going well, but also lean on other people, but allow other people to lean on you and not just hide away from it because it's inconvenient. Also, I get that. I guess that would be my answer. But make time for the people you care about, and that includes people who may not be someone you can post about on LinkedIn and say, oh, guess what? Like, this person I know raised $5 quadrillion. Like, no, like, make time for other people as well. It's not just about that.
Or even of the people that you could post that about, but you don't because you actually know them.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be posting for clout.
No. Just in general. I think that's just a good life.
I think that, something I'm finding over and over again is that relationships are incredibly important.
Yes.
And as we become, and believe me, I'm a New Yorker. I can see people as objects to get out of my way. Like, I can do that whole thing. But I'm trying to be better about taking people as human beings and learning about them and connecting with the ones that I like and developing relationships there, like putting in the time.
Yeah.
And that actually is like, it's like a life hack.
Yeah.
Because you get the connection, you feel good.
Yeah.
You get to know people better that you like. And it can ultimately, even though this isn't why you did it, it can lead to better outcomes for you in what you're doing.
For sure. And I think it's almost like glamorized of like, oh, I dumped my spouse, not maybe, or a life partner or whoever, or like I cut all ties and did this. Like,
Yeah.
Sure, if that's what you really, really want. But I think you just, even if it's just for you going through life happier,
Yeah.
I think there's so much, if it's so much alpha and like just having people, surrounding yourself with people you like, and also being that person that other people want surrounding them. Because I think there's a lot of emphasis on one side of that equation, but like, no, you got to show up as well. You got to be that person for other people.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's something that I think is an unshakable pillar for me, is I am the village and I have a village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's to that point. I've got to review a deck later on that a VC sent to me for something he's doing. And I was like, you're asking me? You're asking me for, but like, this is what we do. We look at things, we give feedback, we are developing, like,
you learn from each other.
Yes.
You can always learn from something from everyone you talk to.
Yeah.
And to think otherwise, in my opinion, is arrogant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. What do you want to say to founders that they should know about the shutdown experience?
So on the operational side of things, let's start there. It is simple in the sense of like there is a set amount of things that you need to do, but it is not easy in the sense that there can be a lot of dependencies, and like, you do want to do it properly. Again, whether or not you work with us or work with someone else or do it yourself, that is besides the issue. It's just that make sure that everything you need to close out properly is done so properly in a timely manner, all of those things. And so don't underestimate how long something will take. It will always take a bit longer than you would like. There are always a little bit more fees than you would like. Usually from the state. So just make sure that you have practically enough runway to deal with some of that. But again, just being open, being honest, being transparent about what's going on allows people to help. Doing it earlier than you think allows people to help. It is not weakness to ask for help. I think it's very tempting to think that it does, but it is not. It means that you are allowing yourself the opportunity to find different, opportunities. You don't wait until the very, very last minute when like there is no other way but being boxed into a corner, being like heading straight off the cliff. Like do it before that happens.
As someone who's done it both ways.
Yeah.
Having a little bit of
runway. It is a lot nicer. Yes, definitely. And yeah, being and all of that to say, allow yourself to grieve. Don't shortcut the process. Like, people grieve differently, but it is there are of course happy endings where like someone sold their company and they just need to go through the motions of closing something down. This part is not particularly targeted towards them, or it could if you're grieving, it's a different kind of grief to saying goodbye to something. But just in general, allowing yourself to feel all of those emotions. You're going to be angry. You're going to be angry yourself. You're going to be angry at the market. You're going to be angry at whoever. You're going to be sad. You're going to, all of those things. And just allow yourself to feel those things. Don't say anything you'll regret, but allow yourself to feel those things and take as much time as you possibly and reasonably can to feel it, because it's an ego death. It's an identity death. It's you are in a transition period. You are allowed to take time off to think about it. You are allowed to go walk dogs for 6 weeks and figure it out. Like all of those things. Do whatever
to shut off your brain.
Yeah.
Do something that's not as high pressure. Absolutely.
I was catatonic for like 6 months. I probably there's like a gap in my brain where it's like I am clearly still here, so clearly I ate. Maybe my force, maybe my husband was just like, can you please just eat something, right? I talked to my therapist, I talked to my friends, I cried a lot, I stared at a wall, I did all of those things.
And a wall is a favorite of mine.
It is nice.
With my mouth sort of open.
Yeah, just yeah. And then 6 hours later, you're like, what did I just what? And getting to know the little nooks and crannies in your wall really, really well. Our flat in Berlin had a brick wall, and I got to know that the intricacies of that brick wall really, really well. And I was like, has that always been there? Anyway, so yeah, allow yourself to feel that, because I think it's very easy or tempting to just pretend everything is okay. But it's not, and you're allowed to feel that. And yeah.
Cool. So now that you have investors on board, what has changed about your life? Do they provide support beyond money?
Yes.
Okay.
I am so, very thankful that everyone we have on the cap table right now is someone, and I do lean on them quite a lot on like things that, even if everything from like, I just need a sounding board, to this question feels like it's bigger than me and I need to just talk to someone who has done it before, all the way to, hey, I just want to gut check this particular thing from whether or not it is plausible from a, operational, legal, financial perspective before I talk to our counsel or anything like that. Just across the board, I have been able to lean on pretty much everyone, which I feel very, very grateful for. They open doors for me. They are willing to make introductions, and they honestly just also care about me, which is really, really nice. Complete coincidence, but I am neighbors with two of them. Neighbors as in we live in the same neighborhood. We luckily do not live in the same building, because there are I do want to go to do my laundry like looking like a goblin, like in peace. So I do have that boundary, but like otherwise it's
it's important.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like allow me to be a goblin. Yeah. Thank you. But just them just being able to say like, hey, I just need to shoot the shit with someone. Am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
Shoot the shit with someone. And say, look, you want to go get a coffee? You want to get whatever it is, and just being able to have people who genuinely mean it when they say I want to support has been a game changer. And almost everyone is based in New York, or at least comes to New York frequently enough that we're able to build that relationship. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's so there's that, and then there are other practical things like for certain outreach or anything like that they're able to, whether it's their own company or anything like that, to be able to support that in a tangible way. So that is also really, really nice. But yeah, it's I would say my day-to-day has not changed, in the sense of like, once you get married, right? Like your day-to-day is not supposed to drastically change. Otherwise, what are you doing? At least that's what I've been told. I don't know. But there's knowing that these people are in it for the long run together with me has been nice. But sometimes I do joke that, like, because sometimes they're like, oh, can we help with anything? And I'm like, yeah, do you want to help me file with some tax returns? As we don't actually do that, but everything up until that point, everyone is like super hands-on and super supportive.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the biggest misconception people have about your work?
Ooh, I think I get a lot of jokes about people saying I'm like the Grim Reaper, or like the mortician, or like the funeral home director. I've heard it all. And there is a little bit of truth to that, right? In the sense of, yes, I meet a lot of founders at that particular point in time. But, as I said earlier, there's a lot of helping someone transition into a new phase, and ushering them into this new chapter of a new beginning, doing whatever it is that they want to do next, and feeling like they can take something off their plate and focus on whatever is next. So like the misconception would be, that it's very dark and dreary like 100% of the time, but I would say that's more like maybe 30% of the time, which it happens. And I've had some very tough conversations with folks, or at least been on the receiving end of it, where someone just had to get something off their chest, and they're going through a really hard time, and being able to absorb that. So that is hard. But it pales in comparison to them actually going through it. So I just kind of keep that perspective. And the other misconception would be that we do we yeah, I don't know how to phrase that, so I'm gonna stop that.
We'll jump ahead.
I lost my train of thought. I was like, you know what, never mind.
Do you have any controversial tips on fundraising for founders?
Ooh, controversial tips. I don't know if it's I would say maybe a year or two ago this was controversial. But you don't have to raise.
Yeah.
I think now it's like the pendulum has started swinging the other way, where there's a lot of reckoning, and a lot of like, should we, shouldn't we, like that kind of thing. So I think it's not as controversial as it used to be, but definitely during like the ZERP frothy era, it was very much like, why not raise? It's free money. And I think the bill always comes due sooner rather than later, right?
It always comes due.
It always comes due. And so, I'm glad that it's no longer seen as strange or weird, or you doing something to sabotage yourself. If you don't raise, I think you just be strategic about when you take money and how and from whom. Like, I think again, not particularly controversial, but also bears repeating, is like, you are effectively entering a long-term relationship, partnership, marriage with everyone on your cap table. You better like them.
Mm-hmm.
You better want to be in the same room as them. And I think that's it can be hard to think about that if you really, really need the capital for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worth taking a beat to say, I need to work with people who align and believe me on as many levels as I possibly can achieve. So yeah, that would be my take on it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. I mean, I think there's movement towards what you're talking about, where people are evaluating whether they should raise or not, but there's still a lot of pressure and a lot of glamorizing of the big valuations, the big raises.
Yeah.
And I think there's still work that we need to do in terms of showing other pathways people can take.
Yeah. And I'm sure you dig into that a lot.
Well, yeah, I just spoke with someone on Friday who is like, an expert in this. Yeah. So he's a VC, funnily enough, and he had a huge $1 billion exit. But he talks very much about other pathways to funding your company.
Of course.
Yeah.
And not every company is VC backable. That is not necessarily a knock on your company.
Yeah.
VC is fuel. It is not purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah, capital should unlock what you're doing faster rather than being the reason of why you do something, I think. But that it could be, I think, depending on, that could be controversial, I guess. I would say the more controversial thing is what I said earlier, where it's like, it's so easy to glamorize the lone wolf, like I am dark and brooding in the corner, I'm doing this all on my own. That kind of, there's very much this archetype. And I'm the complete opposite. I love my husband. Like, holy crap, he is phenomenal. I could gush about him all day and all night. He's probably going to be very embarrassed about it, but whatever. Like, I would not be able to do this without him.
Yeah.
And, there's no, and I think there's, as much as it is important to get the right folks on your cap table type of thing, like, if you think about your life cap table, like, my God, have people that you love around you.
Yeah.
It really makes a difference, whether it's something like, on such a small, basic, everyday kind of level of, I'm in a meeting and the dog really needs to go out, and like, there's just no questions asked. We do this for each other, like that type of thing, all the way to being a founder is very, very hard. You need people you can trust to lean on, and making that decision on who is going to be that person by your side and investing in them as much as they invest in you on a life level, on a love, level, whatever it is, that is so, 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 so underrated. And what is interesting to me is that, the reason why I think this is like weird to me, weirdly controversial is, whatever you think about Palmer Luckey as a person, he has been very, very unapologetic about like how much he loves his wife and how big of a difference she has made in his life. And like one of the best investments that he ever did was having chosen her before all of his success. And weirdly enough, I guess on Twitter everything is controversial, but weirdly enough that it's controversial enough to the point where he was like, you guys are super weird. But I agree. Like, if you having the right person just unlocks so many things in your life, unlocks so much happiness, that I could not possibly imagine doing this as like a, Last Samurai kind of deal. Like I just couldn't. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that is controversial now. I don't know. But I'm like, he's
good.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
He's great. And
I was gonna ask what your support structures are like, but you've just gotten
my friends, my husband, like it's actually one of those things where like I have to restrain myself from talking about it because I am so grateful, and I just like get emotional about it. Oh my god, I love you guys so much. And our dog, she's great.
What kind of dog is it?
She's a dachshund mix. And she's 11, so she has seen me through some very difficult times, including when my last company was shutting down. And she, it's also, I say this like partly seriously and partly facetiously. It's nice to look over at her snoozing away when I'm like stressed about a client email. And then I look over and I'm like, you don't even know what emails are. And I love that for you. And she's just snoozing, and all she cares about is her ball and hanging out on the couch with me after work. Like that's what she cares about. And it's nice to just be able to just do that.
Hearing my dog snore is like the best thing I've ever had
like
in my life.
Serotonin straight to my veins. Yeah.
Any final advice for founders considering, a raise from angels?
Yeah, I think for angels specifically, it's very much these people perhaps much more than VCs or like a fund or anything like that. It's so much more about you, because VCs have their VC math that they need to return the capital to their LPs and all of that. So they're kind of beholden to that structure. And I'm, not all angels, right? But like a lot of angels are, it's literally like, it's the vibes. Like, do they believe in you? If it's a yes, there we go. Right. And, at least for the folks that I've had the privilege of working with this time around, last time around, that was very much the case. I've had, I've met all of them at this point. Maybe all of them. I think there was one person from my previous company that I never actually met in person who backed us. But everyone I have eventually met. But we had some folks that all it took was a 5-10 minute phone call, and they were like, we just love the mission, we love your energy. It's an absolute no-brainer. And if you do it right, the angels can really just unlock so much more than capital, and like again allow them to help build that relationship, and let people in. And of course, always be strategic, always be careful. Not all money is the right money, like that type of thing. Just because you really just because someone passes a vibe check doesn't always mean they're the right fit. So like, disclaimers all over the place, but it really is so much about that first belief in you, and just don't take it for granted. Really, just don't take it for granted. And do right by yourself and do right by them.
Yeah.
I think that's a big.
And I think also when you're bringing on angels, there's other things like how involved do they want to be?
Yeah.
Making sure that you're both in alignment on that.
And yeah, set
And communication,
expectations. Yeah.
expectations.
Yeah.
and, yeah, all that jazz.
Yeah.
Important.
Yeah.
But because you want to keep your relationship healthy with them.
Yeah.
And treat them with the respect that they deserve.
Yeah.
As they do you.
Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Having that, getting things written down is always a good idea. You do not want to be in a situation where you don't have something papered over, and perhaps this is very much informed by where we're sitting on our side of the table, like in the particular part of the journey that we see a lot. But get everything in writing. I think that's just good practice in general, but get it in writing. If appropriate, getting in a contract. I always lean towards getting in a contract, but like get it in writing. Have the hard conversations up front, and you really don't want, no one starts a relationship, no one starts a friendship or anything, or an angelship, investorship,
Yeah. I don't know.
portfolioship,
Yeah.
whatever, some kind of ship.
Yeah.
No one starts that thinking it's gonna go poorly.
Yeah.
And
But I feel like you should talk about.
you should have the hard
whenever-
conversations.
Yes. Whenever I volunteer
Yeah.
angel, I'm like, listen, I'm going to work. I'm fully invested in this. I'm going to work as hard as I can to make this go the right way.
Yeah.
But if you're not comfortable with it potentially going to zero, I don't want your money.
And because ultimately it is risky.
Yeah.
That's why we exist. But it is risky. And and this is regardless of whether it's like a small business, and your friends or your people around you believe in you and want to see your boutique succeed, all the way to like, your like iPhone app is blowing up and people want to support you, like that kind of thing. Regardless of what it is always going to be risky. There is never, if there was 100% something that was going to work, then like everyone would be doing that.
Yeah.
But so yeah, get everything in writing. On a pragmatic level, it's like anyone who resists is probably not the right fit.
Yeah. 100%.
yeah.
So I really appreciate you coming on
Thank
today
you.
and talking about this, talking about your journey, but also talking about the journey that you see other people going through and this whole shutdown situation that happens. It's happened a couple times right here at this table.
Yeah, you
And
between
we're
the
still
two
alive,
of us. Yeah,
right?
we're
Like,
still here.
alive. So it's really helpful to shed light on the highs and lows of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because this could be the podcast that someone sees and helps them.
Yeah, for sure.
In a multitude of ways.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. And there's so many. Yeah, I feel like I've said this before, but it bears repeating. Like being a founder, the journey is hard enough. You don't have to do it alone. You shouldn't do it alone. And whoever it is that you choose to surround yourself with on your cap table, in your life cap table, just make it count, and double down on the folks who believe in you, and return the favor. Return the favor.
Amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
This was super fun.
And I'm Helena Fogarty, and this was Inside